There's only 4 hospitals left of 36. It's a crazy fucking amount, you guys. They literally can't do anything because most of the places that give aid to these innocent civilians has been completely destroyed because it has been done intentionally. Netanyahu does not care about innocent people. It's just, oh, it's just casualty of war. It's okay. New polls from Watson University reveal the full story of the U.S. government's obsession with Israel, plus, where it all started. Then also the direct impact the U.S. has had on innocent civilians in Gaza, due to their funding of Israel. Over 61,000 people, at least, have died of starvation alone due to the devastation caused by the Israeli government and Netanyahu. Now, why is our government still funding these people despite knowing these things? So we're going to take a look at this and an interview that took place on Glenn Greenwald's System Update with the authors of said articles. But before we get into that, though, cue intro. Alright, so the U.S. obsession with Israel started around 1953, roughly, according to a man who is an expert around U.S. spending in the Middle East. Now, let's take a look at why this whole obsession is continuing.
More than 100,000 dead in a territory of 1.9 billion is just shocking. So even if there were some significant benefits to the U.S. economy, to me that would be the equivalent of blood money. But in fact, it's much more limited than the administration would have you believe. Certainly the companies do fine. About a quarter of the aid Israel can use to build up its own weapons industry. The rest of it just kind of passes through Israel, goes back to Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, Palantir, which helps make the surveillance things to pick targets, and had the gall to actually hold their board meeting in Israel after the war started as an explicit political endorsement of the war. But, in terms of jobs, spending on weapons is the least effective way to create jobs, but it's been politically engineered so those jobs are in the districts of members with the most power over the budget. And even relatively liberal members often don't want to be perceived as voting against jobs in their district. But interestingly, 2 of the unions that are most involved in the arms industry, the UAW and the machinists, have initiatives underway to see if they can reduce the need for their members to build weapons to make a living, which is happens periodically, but is quite extraordinary. And UAW also has come out early for a ceasefire, and so it used to be you could sort of draw a wedge between labor and peace and social justice movements. It's much less the case with respect to Gaza.
Basically, half of those funds that were, invested in Israel go into boosting the sales of the arms dealers and everything else, which is no real surprise if you've been looking at this stuff for quite a while, you feel me? Quite a bit of it is about just bolstering the military-industrial complex and the arms dealers. It's basically a way to just bolster up their sales and benefit them in a way that's going to basically displace prior governments and solely benefit the U.S. arms dealers and the shitty corrupt government plus their buddies that, align with them. But now let's take a look at how long ago this obsession started and how much money has been spent on Israel and been funneled into fueling its imperialism.
250 billion. He found, if you adjust for inflation, since 1959, $250 billion of U.S. military aid to Israel, which not only enabled their military, but to my mind, probably paid for the bulk of their own arms industry. And of course, they sell light weapons, they sell drones, they become a significant weapons exporter, in addition to how they use the weapons in repressing the Palestinians. So, in the early decade, it was relatively low. It picked up after the 67 war, and then substantially, essentially the Camp David agreements were sealed with an arms deal. Egypt and Israel were allotted at least a certain amount each year. Israel's number was about 3 billion. No, it's more like 3.8, counting things like missile defense. And there's a 10-year agreement, which is in the midst of 38 billion. And that's been far exceeded with these emergency aid plans in the last year. They give them used weaponry at a discount or free. There's commercial deals. They're not well reported for things like, firearms. And Israel's Air Force that's doing the bombing is entirely made up of U.S. weapons. So in some ways, it's like, we must investigate whether U.S. arms are involved. There's nothing to investigate. Their whole Air Force is from the United States. Reuters found that they had virtually, used up their entire stock of major bombs, and the U.S. aid replaced that. So this war could not be waged on this scale without that support. So when administration officials say they're leaning on Israel to be more restrained, or they talk about supporting a rules-based international order, it's laughable and just I don't know how these folks are ever going to have any credibility.
$250 billion has gone to Israel. Now, I remember a while back in the past few years seeing on X and stuff like that it only take a few billion or trillion dollars max to end world homelessness. Why hasn't any of this money gone to that? Or better yet, it really would actually end that in America. Hunger, or getting our vets off the streets / proper help to them so they can have better lives. So the U.S. government's like, we can help end world homelessness and hunger by just bombing them. It's such a great solution. Obviously the best one. No, Ali, it's the best decision. Don't you know? Whatever our government says is obviously always right. They can never be wrong. This is fairly obvious that the whole obsession with Israel, at least a decent degree of it, is about bolstering the arms dealers' pockets with money.
Hello, I like money.
And just through sales with Israel at this point when it comes to the Middle East. Don't forget, though, that our government is sending our National Guard plus billions of dollars to Israel / Ukraine while giving the victims of Helene and Milton scraps.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Alright, so this is the midway point of the video, you guys. If you haven't already, don't forget to, hit that like button and destroy the shit out of the subscribe button. It really does help us out a lot here, and also helps to get this information out to even more people, completely raw and uncensored. You feel me? And, helps people understand that they're not alone in questioning these shitty, corrupt systems we live in, But either way, though, my dudes, I appreciate you guys very much. And with that little part being out of the way, let's go and hop right back on into the video. Now, Israel has specifically been targeting hospitals and civilian shelters as well, too, for attacks. Let's not forget. And your taxpayer dollars are going to that too, mind you.
And kind of the lack of things like antibiotics, or the inability of hospitals to provide nutrition when they are faced with severe malnutrition patients who come in. Things that seem extremely basic. Another shocking thing for me in the details was that as the medical workers have been killed, we have over 880 medical workers. Many thousands have been displaced. You also have a lot of people whose training in medicine has been interrupted. So you have people exercising parts of medicine that they are not trained to be in. They are underfed, underslept. So we're not even only talking about the kind of physical infrastructures or supplies that are lacking, but also the kind of overall system's ability to operate in any way that would be near normal is completely gone.
Oh, yeah. Before we continue with that, Israel has literally intentionally bombed main roads to prevent aid from getting to these Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and in general, so they can't really do anything in help people like they should get relief. They don't get the proper food supplies. And they've also, you know, destroyed one of the world's oldest churches, by the way, that was housing victims of Israel's slaughtering of these innocent people. Just because of Hamas.
I don't know if I mentioned that the only 4 of Gaza's 36 hospitals were not damaged or destroyed as of a few months ago. The statistics are in the report. So it means that even the lucky people who are making it to hospitals, which again means that you're lucky in Gaza, are also being met with inadequate facilities, inadequate care, no hospital beds being available. And then, as you mentioned, hospitals have been actively targeted. So hospitals are bombed, hospitals are surrounded by Israeli soldiers and tanks and fired upon. So we don't have anything.
880 medical staff have been killed, and then over 1,000 of them, if not more at this point now, have been displaced while actively being targeted by the Israeli military and their leader Netanyahu. There's only 4 hospitals left of 36. It's a crazy fucking amount, you guys. They literally can't do anything because most of the places that give aid to these innocent civilians has been completely destroyed because it has been done intentionally. Netanyahu does not care about innocent people. It's just, oh, it's just casualty of war. It's okay. 90% of the population that has been killed, it's mainly been due to starvation and just starving to death.
We have an estimated 90% of Gaza's population, that's over 1.9 million people, who have been displaced. We have 96% of Gaza's population facing acute levels of food insecurity. I'll add to that 9 out of 10 children do not have the food they need to eat. And that a letter from 99 doctors to the Biden administration that was published just this month on October 2nd, had an appendix revealing that 62,000 people, at least 62,000 people have already died of starvation. We have the massive destruction of road infrastructures already as of January, which means people can't access healthcare or any kind of support system, humanitarian aid. As well as, I just want to make sure I'm giving you the numbers, at least 3/4 of housing stock that's already been destroyed, which means that people are living in temporary shelters that, as we saw today in the news, are also targets of airstrikes and other forms of violence.
Over 62,000 people have been killed, and that's simply due to starvation alone. And like we said earlier, there are people literally being targeted in these, or what are supposed to be safe zones, which is specifically, you know, medical areas and areas for treating innocent civilians. I don't know how the fucking hell our government can fund this stuff except for, you know, profit, and because they're extremely crooked and messed up in the fucking head. Now, these people that were interviewed are experts about this stuff, you guys. They've been doing this research for years and writing about this stuff for quite a long time. They're experts on U.S. spending and the events going on in the Middle East. The current U.S. government does not care about innocent civilians in the Middle East, nor here at home in the U.S. if, you know, anything that the issues with Helene and Milton have proved thus far. It doesn't care about helping its own struggling citizens, nor people in the Middle East. Just wars, boosting the military-industrial complex and the arms dealers and the sales of those guys. Plus, you know, themselves and their greedy corporate elite buddies as well, too. All the people that aid that agenda. But as usual, though, my dudes, if you guys did make it to this point in the video, go on and, you know, hit that like button and destroy the shit out of that subscribe button. It really does mean a lot to me, and also helps to get us even further up in the YouTube algorithm, and especially does, you know, if you guys share it, really helps get this stuff out there to even more people out in the world, to let them know what's going on completely 1,000,000% raw and uncensored, you feel me? Especially here on Rumble. But either way, though, my dudes, I appreciate you guys very much. As usual, though, too, my dudes, if you guys would like, feel free to join us live every Wednesday and Friday from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube or over on Twitch, Rumble, etc. You get to join us in the discussions such as this on conspiracy facts, you feel me, and everything the legacy media and our corrupt governments are not telling us, as well as, you know, dark humor memes and playing games such as Pokemon Unite, Fortnite, etc. Whatever really floats the mood, you feel me? And, you know, just vibe out and have a good time with us. But until next time, though, my dudes, please don't forget to live long and prosper, take care and peace, keep it 1,000,000% real, and as always, fuck the system. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Z-Tron. Yo!
People of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is America.